Hi, and welcome to another Scientology Outside of the Church podcast brought to you by ao-gp.org and the College of Independent Scientology.com, our online social platform and online course room for independent Scientology with AOGP. We are here with Arthur Mudakis and Quentin Stroud. This may very well be the most important podcast we've ever done to date. And also, we're going to be releasing it on YouTube in video so that you can see us as we talk about this topic and get a little bit more reality of who we are, what we look like, and our expressions and everything. And you have a little bit more idea what's going on. And both the guys have been very gracious to let me throw them up on camera at a moment's notice. And this is not something we normally do, but I thought that it was that important to do it. So the title of this is going to be Expectations and Assumptions. So what we're going to do is start off with a thing that LRH said at one point in time, and this is for all of our listeners, a little bit of a don't shoot the messenger. But LRH says that the liability of being an auditor is that when you audit someone, eventually that person, that client, that pre-clear, that pre-OT may and very likely will come to resent you because they think you're better than them. Mm. And that itself is an expectation and assumption that won't happen, that the person won't do that, but it happens. So the reason why I mention this is that this is a liability for the person that is auditing. And in this case, it's a liability for us to be telling you what it is that we're about to be telling you. And this is so revelatory in its nature, revealing, that we need you to stick with us. And it might be good if you grabbed a pen and paper and took notes, because we are gonna be unraveling something of magnitude here from an angle that we've never unraveled it before. So with that out of the way, don't shoot the messenger. Please listen with an open mind and accept this and look at it and apply it to your own life in any situation that persists, because a lie is what causes something to persist. For anything to persist, there's a lie behind it, with the Scientology and Dianetic axioms. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Now, the next step is LRH says the only way to control a person is to lie to them. How could that be? Quentin, you want to go first? Arthur, who wants to go first?
Well, I think that, in trying to control and that in and of itself is a huge buzzword amongst the non-Scientological community, because outside of Scientology, the idea of control is a very negative, taboo way of looking at the world. You're trying to control me. But when you're lying to someone, you're actually trying to control them in order to get something from them or out of them or a response from them or action from them in order to benefit and to make you feel better or make you come out on top. So one would have to lie to someone in order to get them to do something or behave a certain way or whatever, so that they can then benefit. And that really is kind of what is the basis of why lie to anybody about anything, because you want something out of them. You want some kind of response. You want to keep a relationship with them, or you want to destroy a relationship with them, or however you do it, and you lie in order to create that effect.
Right. And that comes down to manipulation, gaslighting, whatever term you want to use, flavor of the day type of a thing, is that in order to manipulate a person, you must tell them an untruth so that they believe B instead of A. And the example that I gave right before the podcast is if somebody said, "Would you go in the other room and get me some hair gel?" And the person says, "Yeah, sure, I'll go get the hair gel." And they go in the other room and there's a man in there with a gun that shoots them. And once you're dead, they collect the insurance and then they go get married, the man with the gun and the person that asked you to go get the hair gel, would you go in the room to get the hair gel if you knew there was a man in there with a gun and they were going to kill you?
Mm. No.
Probably not. Now that is a an extreme example. However, this is the mechanic of it. If somebody told you the truth, what would you do? As opposed to if somebody lied to you, what would you do? That's the crux of the matter.
What
Hmm.
about what about on the other side of the fence where we quite often lie to ourselves as opposed to believing somebody else's lie, but then also lying to ourselves in our own minds.
And
That goes to
it's
expectations.
right. That goes to
Well,
expectations and assumptions.
and I heard many years ago I heard a really good saying around expectations, and that was expectations equal premeditated resentments. And so what that statement means is you've already created potential outcomes with expectations, and some of them are going to be positive and some of them are going to be negative. And so quite often we set ourselves up for failure when we rely too much on expectations, when we rely too much on a potential future taking shape the way we want it. And so we can kind of set ourselves up for a little bit of disaster as well if we put too much expectation on someone or something. Like if I expect my car to run forever, I'm going to be sadly disappointed. If I expect my car to continue to run without servicing it and getting the tires done and getting the brakes checked, it's going to get me into trouble. But
Hmm.
if I expect that I get the services done on time, if I make sure that those things occur, then the longevity of my car will definitely exceed potentially me.
Right. Now that also comes down to what kind of car did you buy? Did you buy a lower end budget car? And the salesman said, "Oh, these things they last for 500,000 miles or whatever it would be in
I expect it
kilometers.
will.
I expect it will." And so what's happening there is the salesman is quite possibly telling you a lie when it's a low end Ford or a low end VW or a Renault or any number of low end cars. But you choose, and this is the important part, you choose to believe them
Mm.
because you're being there and you're communicating, which is what LRH says is the only thing you can be wrong for. So when I said don't shoot the messenger, why
Mm.
I said that, this is point one, is who put you at that dealership and why did you choose to pick a car that was basically, it's the situation of you get what you pay for. If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Well,
So
I expect he's telling me the truth.
that's right. You expect he's telling you the truth based off of what you said a moment
And
ago.
he, mhm.
uh,
Go ahead.
Based off of what you said a moment ago, is that he, you're you have expectations and assumptions based off of you have not informed yourself well enough on the situation in order to know what it is that you're getting into.
Look, don't listen.
Look, don't listen. This is an LRH datum. And
Hmm.
you have to be able to obnose, observe the obvious, which is a Scientology term, and look at it for what it is. If you don't know the tone scale well enough, you don't know the PTS, potential trouble source and suppressive person data, or you choose to look the other way with rose colored glasses because you're in love or some other reason that you're lying to yourself, then you are going to have something persist. And that is
Mm.
a self formulated expectation and assumption by you disinforming yourself, first and foremost. More importantly, you have to look at the person that you're dealing with and whether they are lying to you to control and manipulate you.
Right.
God,
It,
there's
does it
liars everywhere.
doesn't LRH say the only way to play a game is to be a little stupid? Like
That's
you
right.
gotta
That's right.
you gotta you
That's
have to
right.
make your you have to make yourself not know something in order to even play the game. And
That's right.
so I choose less obnosis, knowing the obvious. I choose less obnosis in order to even play this game with you when I really know. I really could know. I really could know what the situation is going to be. I really could know what you're going to do to me. I really could know how this thing is gonna go down. But to even play this game with you, I'm just going to be a little stupid.
Right. Because the actual axiom is in order to play a game, you have to agree to become aberrated.
Uh
And that is ultimate KRC would be power. And so you've dropped down out of knowledge, responsibility, control, and power, and you drop down out of ARC in order to not know, because playing a game that you already know the outcome is not a game.
mm,
So
it's not a game.
that's right. So we have to roll it back and go, okay, so why would a person tell you a lie? Because they want to control you. And that brings us back to who benefits. Okay, and now ultimately, why does a person want to benefit? Well, the Dianetic principle, the first rule of Dianetics is survive. The being wants to survive in some fashion, per- particularly better than you. They want to take something that you have or they think you have and make it their own. So they're benefiting from it. You're being lied to because someone benefits from lying to you, controlling you, which in turn lessens your survival. And it's why you struggle in your current present time survival, is because you're allowing yourself to be lied to, or you're lying to yourself. Now, you could look at this on a grand scale, and you could say in the physical universe or globally, politically, second dynamically, third dynamically, the church and what they say to you and what they do are two different things. But the fact remains is your ability to observe it is to the degree that one, you're uptone, two, your ability to view things as they really are good enough that you can dodge those bullets. It's that simple.
Yeah. Once you're able to really see it, it has to be it has to vanish. It has to disappear. Once you're able to really perceive of the lie or whatever this thing that's kept it persistent in your space, in your life, in your energy field or whatever, once you're able to fully perceive of it, it has to vanish. It cannot stay because it's not truth.
Right. So if you're having a problem, there's something there that you're not viewing that you've accepted as a truth, either for yourself or from someone else, and you're looking at it as something else, or they presented it to you as something else, and you're operating off of that as a stable datum, and you could be taken to the cleaners by that person, that organization, that significant other, that friend, that landlord, that
A family
realtor,
member.
that family member, and you wonder why is this not working? It normally works. What's going on? What don't I know? That thing that you don't know is right in front of you.
Listen, y'all know I got my Qisms, and one of my Qisms is trust but verify. And so I trust you, but listen, we finna take a look. We finna go do a deep dive. We finna scroll.
Right. That's right.
Because trust but verify.
Look, don't listen. Why? Let's look at that for a moment. Why don't listen, Arthur?
Because we can say anything we like, but when you do something that's completely observable, you can't lie with your body.
Mhm.
That's right, because it's in the physical
You can't
universe.
lie.
It's
Right.
The body can't lie. I can make my body lie through my words, but I can't make my body lie through my actions. I can act with my words, but the body just can't lie.
Hmm.
The brain, on the other hand, yeah, it's full of lies.
Well, the mind and the vein,
Well,
the
the
brain
mind,
put the
yeah,
brain put the mind pushes the body through the brain to do these things, and then
yeah,
it's on camera or it's in text
yeah,
or there's irrefutable evidence. We have the video of you shooting the person who went in to get the hair gel. You did it. And then
yeah.
if it isn't something that you can't see, that isn't manifest, deny, 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 deny. We've all done it. We've all done it. Okay. And
Well, how often
that's
do we
the,
see how often do we see politicians using their words, but then there's actual evidence of something completely different?
Right. Don't
Completely
be saying
different.
nothing.
Yeah,
right. Right.
yeah.
And
They
that's the
deny it.
thing.
I don't,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
I never
recall,
said that.
whatever the case is.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't spend, $200,000 on a holiday, except there's some footage of them taking the helicopter across for lunch. Yeah.
Right. So
Uh,
when you look and don't listen, and this is why there are detectives who go out and they find actual evidence of
Physical evidence.
physical evidence of it. This is why LRH says if it isn't written, it isn't true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the same concept? If it isn't written in the physical universe, there's a gun with one bullet in the chamber expended, and you look around and go, well, where's the bullet? Oh, there's the body. Where's the bullet? Oh, it's lodged in his chest, in his heart. Okay. So we know that the gun went off perceptibly. So we have to send that to ballistics and go, is the bullet in the body, in that heart, the same bullet that was in the gun
That came from that gun.
that came from that gun? And they get it back from ballistics, and ballistics says the notchings on the casing of the bullet match the inside of that gun's
Chamber.
internals chamber.
Hmm.
Thank you. And
Hmm.
that indeed, yes, is the same bullet that came from that gun. Okay. Are there any fingerprints on the gun?
Hmm.
Okay, well, we need to dust the gun for fingerprints and get the DNA first, and then we will do a DNA check, which is a modern marvel, and we will verify if there was any DNA, which there should be and usually is, on the gun. Okay, now we have a fingerprint, we have the DNA records, we know who did
Got the
it.
matching bullet. Yeah.
Matching bullet, we know who did it. That is, if it isn't written, it isn't true. It is written with DNA, fingerprints, bullet, same gun, in body. Is that person who we think it is that is dead? Why, yes, it
Right.
is. We have we have irrefutable proof that that is George Smith. George Smith is dead. Okay, now we need to find the person that did it. Okay,
Hmm.
now
And it's all spelled out.
that's right. And George Smith will
Mm.
say,
There's a
I have,
report.
right, as a report. And George Smith says, I have an alibi. I was somewhere else. Okay, let's look into the alibi. Where was his phone at the
Hmm.
time? His phone was in that apartment building at the time of approximate time of the murder. Now, if we don't have
Right.
any cameras in the room, and even if you have cameras in the room, the camera could have the wrong time on it. Nobody set the time on the camera. So the camera gives a wrong time. Time, place, form, and event, LRH says. That's
Hmm.
how you handle an overt. And you
Exact truth.
get an as isness. Even if the time is wrong on the camera, we still have the video of George being shot by the murderer.
Hmm.
Does it matter? No. Why? Because the phone was there at the time, which corroborates the fact that the shooter killed George.
Hmm.
Done and dusted. Now
It's
all we
all
have,
spelled out.
it's all spelled out. Go ahead, Quentin.
Yeah, no, that I was just agreeing, and I think that when we look at it from the way you just described it, it makes total sense. Anybody who's seen CSI or Law and Order, right,
Mhm.
knows that this is how it's all done. But when we look at our personal lives, right, there's no law and order for relationships or for friendships or for family or whatever. There's no law and order for that. And so there has to be a deep dive into what is going on in our, in our world, right, in our own reality, our own subjective reality. And so there has to be a deep dive into that. I know for me, when I do relationships and in my 2D flows, I write it out. I write out exactly how we gonna operate. I write out exactly how we gonna flow. I write it out because if it's not in writing, it isn't true. And I want to make this the truth of how we gonna flow. So let's write it out. Let's talk about it. How you want to do? You want to get mad at me? Okay, how you gonna get mad at me? You gonna yell? You see what I'm saying? And so all of this stuff becomes a clear indicator of how we're going to move through this thing. And anything that is contrary to what is true for us,
Mhm.
anything that goes against what we've decided is going to be our lived truth, you've now created a problem. We've now created a lie. You're trying to control me. You're trying to do this. You're trying to get something out of me. You're trying to manipulate, whatever the case may be. And now it's objectively so. It's not just my opinion, right?
Mhm.
Because according to Article 3, subsection paragraph 5, we decided that we're not going to do XYZ,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
or whatever the case may be. And so all of these things I think are really, really important when we understand that when somebody is lying to you, they're trying to control you and get something, whatever that something is, trying to get something out of you in order for them to benefit and you to be on whatever lessened
Right.
to whatever degree lessened.
Right. So a lie isn't just what is said, it's what is withheld for that person's longer term benefit, omitted data, why they're
Mm-hmm.
really doing this, likely more dangerous than the outright lie itself. What are their intentions? And those intentions can be so far to the left that you're dealing with evil purposes.
Mm-hmm.
What can I get out of you? And how can I misrepresent the situation through expectations and assumptions of what I'm telling you the cover story is, as opposed to what it is that they are really doing this for? And some people can play a really, really long game.
Right. But the only way they can play the long game is if one is choosing not to
That's right.
observe some things.
That's
Because
right.
because the truth of the matter is it's always spelled out. It's always there. Why can't we, or why aren't we seeing the signs, as it were? Right.
Hmm.
In Latin there's a term called cui bono, and that means who benefits. And
Hmm.
it's often invoked in legal matters and stuff like that. That the principle is that the most probable responsible party for an overt act, crime or whatever, is probably the one who stands to gain the most or stands to gain something from it. And so when you ask the question, cui bono, who benefits, you can pretty much find, okay, I see how you're trying to benefit off of me. I see how you're trying to use a situation in order to get something from me. And whether that be an organization, right? We asked the question, cui bono, how are you benefiting from me? Well, it could be because you want to get my money. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so it could be in family, it could be relationships, it could be whatever. But where we understand this, we can then decide, maybe objectively, so if you're willing to be objective, you can decide whether or not you want to continue to play that game. Remember
Hmm.
that song? Um, I want to spread the news that if it feels this good getting used, oh, you just keep
Just
on
keep on
using
using
me
me until
until
you
you use
use
me
me
up.
up.
Yeah. Some people okay with that. Some people choose to play that game enough until they used up, and that's their choice. But if you really take a look, you know what's happening. You know
Hmm.
what's going on.
Right. And the thing is if you may not see it right out of the gate, you might not see the indicators that say this is what's going on. The unfortunate nature of that is, what steps have you taken to step further into the lion's den or put your head in the lion's mouth and go, I'm gonna see what chomp,
Right.
and
But
happens
I
never
trust
comes
him
out of your
so
mouth.
much.
But right,
Good kitty, good
right,
kitty.
right, right,
Yeah.
right,
What?
right. Now,
What's the story where the lady finds a snake frozen in the ice, and then she takes the snake home, nurses it back to life, and then one day the snake turns around and bites her. And she questions the snake, I saved you. Why did you turn around and bite me? And the snake simply replies, look, you always knew I was a snake.
You knew it was a snake when you found me. Right.
Yeah.
right. But you chose not to see that I was a reptile, and I had slits in my eyes, and that I had scales, and that I was long, and everything
And
with my
fangs.
S's sayings.
Well,
And
not only that, but she had the expectation that she put care into the snake, that the snake would not harm her in return.
that's
Oh,
right.
She assumed, she assumed the snake would would respond accordingly
Reciprocate.
with
Yes.
the
reciprocate her
with
feelings.
kind. Yeah,
Right. Right.
that the snake would respond with kind, but that's its
Right.
nature.
Because you were
It's like
talking.
asking a lion to
Yeah.
be a vegetarian. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right. You were talking to me, and you presented things to me in such a way that I assumed that you were good and that you wouldn't eat me.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Expectations and assumptions based off of falsehoods. Now, do you want to take this a
Wow.
little bit further? All right. This is what causes a Thetan. These actions by the quote unquote uh, perpetrator, snake, whatever you want to call it, this is what happens to a Thetan in the long term, because they become incapable of being a capable Thetan and having and running a body of their own, and becoming incapable of occupying a body as the Thetan in charge. They have degraded themselves so much over time by their actions, and I will give the caveat that their actions can be produced by earlier things on the track or other influences that influence them to cause them to commit these actions. But at the end of the day, they were there and communicating and allowed it to happen. Period. Now, if you can't confront this type of a situation, you can't confront evil, you can't confront learning the information to protect yourself, or worse yet, you've learned the information, maybe not cleared your words, tried to apply it, or had expectations and assumptions that it wouldn't work, which would be a hidden standard. You're not going to go anywhere, and you're going to be on that dwindling spiral. And over a long period of time in the physical universe, you will be convinced that you are nothing and you can no longer occupy the body as a Thetan in charge. And now you have to be somebody else and can no longer be yourself, and are so fully out of valence that you might just end up as a grain of sand on a beach in perpetuity in the physical universe, because that's all you can be.
Mm. Yeah. And even as you just talked about that, like I could literally see in my mind the way a being would start to deteriorate and degrade himself, right? Or herself.
Mhm.
That the being would start to become a degraded being. This is the reason why we do the life repair. This is the reason why we do false purpose burn down. This is the reason why we do the grades and things, is because on the bridge, as you start to raise back up, if one has the the courage and the fortitude to really start taking a look, when you start to raise back up, the bridge is set up in such a way where it brings you up out of that mess. It brings you up out of that degraded condition of self, because of the false purposes, the failed help, all the stuff that you've gone through, and it knocks you down so much so that the bridge is meant to bring you back up as a being so that you can start to win again, that you can start to see and observe things again clearly.
Mhm.
Like
Mm.
really? That's been going on this whole time? Yep.
Yep.
And now you see it.
And you know what's, and it's so scary though, because even below that, it it's so normalized, and you can't tell the difference until you experience the difference. And that's what's
Mhm.
scary about it, because you might feel completely comfortable where you are, even though your body's screaming at you amounts of discomfort. And it's not until that you realize that, oh my God, there is another side to this. And it's not
Mm.
until you feel it, see it, experience it, that you can be like, my God, um, how did I exist this way for so long?
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
a cognition and or an epiphany, a cognition in auditing is that you're realizing and looking at something and going, "Oh my God, it wasn't that, it's this."
Hmm.
Yeah,
That is
100%.
when your expectations and assumptions shift. And what we were describing as to when a person goes down this dwindling spiral and becomes a grain of sand on the beach, or even worse, a molecule, it's the exact opposite of OT, because they are unwilling to look at things for the way that they are and take responsibility for them. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And we can only help those who help themselves.
Right.
Can
I've
you
heard
help
I've heard that
yourself?
somewhere else before.
Yeah. I might have mentioned it in a podcast or 20. I'm not sure.
Right. Or 20.
Maybe,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah. And the Scientology Axiom 50 says theta as mess must contain considerations which are lies. So if you have a thetan, if you as a spiritual being can become so degraded that you, like you talk about the grain of sand or the molecule or whatever, so degraded that you drop down as mist, this must contain lies or considerations that are lies. And so you're now in a position where it's harder, hear us, it's harder for us as beings to come up out of that such a degraded condition, because how are you operating? How are you moving? What could you do as a grain of sand besides lay there and go to and fro with the wave? What could you do? But now you have that opportunity. Now you have this moment to start to observe truth. You have the opportunity to start to see yourself truly as you are. And this is why this is such an important time in our lives right now, because we now have a route. We have a way to do things that actually get you to see the lies however they show up. You
Hmm.
can see the lies as they are in your life, and you can make them vanish. It's
Right.
such a good feeling.
Right. So, the only way to control a person is to lie to them. If you are in a position that you are unhappy with, what lie is it that you're operating off of that disallows you to be able to be, do, and have the things that it is that you feel where you should be? You have to look at that. What particular person, organization, physical location, all of the above, and yourself, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be able to look and find out and do the detective work. And sometimes you don't want to know the answers. You
Mm,
don't want to know the answers on what you're being told, because you're not looking, you're listening.
mm,
And
mm-hmm.
I'd also like to mention that people on the internet, Scientology, Dianetics, and LRH's detractors, they like to take this particular line. The only way to control someone is to lie to them and spin it,
I know, it's so stupid.
and spin it and say, "Aha! There, he said it. See what he
See,
said.
he's
This is
lying to people.
this is what he is doing. That right there, that right there is the
Yes,
lie that they are propagating, because they are taking it and they are twisting it and turning it into something that it was not intended to be.
right.
That is the best example I can give. And you
They're
have to look,
liars.
right. They have to look, not listen, and go, okay, If that's what he meant, why don't you go into a Dianetic session with an open mind and get a little Dianetics auditing for free?
Mhm.
And you tell me how you feel after you come out of it. If you've
Mhm.
given it the best shot and you want to help yourself honestly. If you can't be honest with yourself, you are fucked. And I'm
That's a
sorry,
word right there.
I'm going to drop the
Pretty
That's
F
the
much.
bomb.
that's axiom number 942.
Right. Dash
Was that?
seven,
Yeah.
you're fucked.
If you can't be honest with yourself, you're fucked.
You're fucked. And that is the long-term thing, and that is why
Jeez.
the Scientology OT levels work the way that they do. This universe abounds and is teeming with so much life. It's been a problem to societies since the beginning of time and the societies in it. And the only way
Mhm.
to control these beings was to lie to them, to get them out of the way, so that these societies could do the things that they were going to do and eventually fold it up on themselves because they were lying to themselves.
That's right.
We live in the same type of society today at this very moment of this podcast. I'm not getting political. I'm just saying, look, don't listen.
Right.
You are being
And
controlled and you are being lied to.
it's pretty sad. Like that's probably the biggest failure in our existence, isn't it? The fact that we have the ability to lie and manipulate. Like
Yeah.
without that, things would be extremely different without lies and manipulation.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Mhm.
Yeah. There are
Like
societies
we'd
out
be
there
way
that,
more progressive.
yeah, we'd be way more progressive. There are societies out there in
Yeah.
in this universe, and universes on one side of this universe and on the other. And I'm not talking about the physical universe. They exist because there is no expectation and assumption based off of earlier lies. Everything
Mhm.
is as it is supposed to be. And there is no expectation or assumption other than the truth and the factual existence of the truth. And the only
Mhm.
reason this universe persists in the first place, and people say, well, this is a hologram and all of that. Okay, you could kind of call it hologram, but it is what it is because there's a lie behind it, or it wouldn't be persisting. Period.
Right.
And I think and I think as well, we all have an expectation to feel good constantly, whereas the reality is, you can't always feel good. And this world isn't designed to be feel good all the way. And so we have this expectation of, everything, we've got to be happy all the time. We've got to be comfortable all the time, but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that in itself is a lie. You know what I mean? Like observing the nature of this planet we're on. But then we make it worse on top, you
Mm-hmm.
know, even just as far as something like climate change. We go through a period where it's just extra hot or extra cold.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like that for how long?
Mm-hmm.
You can count the ice ages in the side of mountains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a new thing, and it's not, and then we lie, and this is just my own personal opinion, but we lie on top of these things. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Who
that's a part of this
benefits?
world.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
yeah, and the lies are directed towards our own emotions and our own fears, our own survival needs. But
Mhm.
survival isn't easy either. It's painful. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we had to live in the jungle, it'd be a completely different experience to sitting in my warm home in the middle of winter.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
and and
Completely
and
different.
and like we said with movies and stories and all of that stuff, if they told you what the ending was at the beginning, would you watch the movie?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you've agreed to be,
Spoiler.
yeah, we've agreed to become aberrated in order to play this game, and the underlying theme is agreement. You
Mm.
agreed to watch the movie and invest 2 hours of your time in this universe, in that body. And at the end, you go, that's it.
Oh, I hate that. Don't you hate a
That's
disappointing
it.
ending?
Yeah, that's it. I can't get that 2 hours back and that $50 and going to the AMC cinema for and paying $10 for a Coke. Uh, God damn it, I did it
And
again.
imagine a whole lifetime of that.
Yeah.
Imagine 80, 90, 100 years of living a life and never really coming to full awareness of self, never really coming to full knowingness of who you really are, of truth about who you really are. And then that's it. Just poof, you're gone.
Womp, womp,
A-
womp.
the
It's
end.
all right. It's all
Finished.
right because my next life will be better.
Oh, maybe not. And that's another game that you're gonna have to start playing. You might come.
Right,
You.
right.
Shh,
Who
that's another
knows?
game,
Who
right?
knows?
Well, I
But
have a
that's
next. I expect my next life to be better. I assume it's going to be better than this one.
Based on the earlier lies that you told yourself, right?
right, right.
Right,
But who went to the movie theater again 3 months later and said, maybe it'll be different? It wasn't.
right. It was it.
You did.
And look, and then the sequel is worse than the first,
Right,
the
right,
original.
right. And you knew that going in. Well, maybe this one will be different. Okay,
Right.
okay, did you maybe think that you shouldn't go to the movie theater? Or maybe you shouldn't take that job, or maybe you shouldn't do this or do that. But you ignored the signs and you were there and communicating, and you underestimated or overestimated the amount of effort, spent all that time and said, well, my expectations weren't met. I assumed it would be this way, but I'm the one that believed it in the beginning because I didn't
Hmm.
do my homework as a thing.
Hmm.
And
And I didn't take an objective look.
that's right. You didn't you
This is
didn't look.
this is why when you have these people who like, well, my pastor told me, and pastor said that such and so and so, and it's like, okay, but did you take a look at that scripture? Did you
Right.
take a look at that and really dig into it? Do you know the etymology? Did you clear your words?
Right.
Do you know what that really means?
Who
Like, because
believed the pastor?
right. Like you're listening to something and you're violating because then that creates your expectations and assumptions, and it could not be the full truth as is. It could not be the full truth,
Right.
you know? And so, I think this is such a good conversation because we're talking about people who use lies and manipulation in order to control you and keep you from surviving as well in order for them to survive better. And so anything that's going to steer you towards truth, anything that's going to steer you towards an awareness of self that is more uh, pro survival, for you to have that self awareness, that self knowledge, that's where you should be running to. That's what you should be reaching out for at every moment, in every way. It's interesting because I'm gonna say this. I think that there is a persistence of drug use, of alcohol, of things that's happening to keep you in the lie,
That's right.
to keep you from not knowing self, to keep you from not really truly knowing who you are. And with that persistence, and if it is something that persists in your universe, is something that needs to be taken a look at.
Mhm.
Look, take a look at it.
That's right.
What is this about? Where is this coming from? Why do I do this? Why is this the case? And what you'll find is a better knowingness of who you are that's going to lead you into a better life.
Yeah, and ultimately it comes down to this, and this is going to be incredibly unpopular for me to say this, but it needs to be said. You are either living the narrative of believing somebody else's narrative because of your expectations and assumptions, because they're lying to you about something, or you are the one creating the false narrative and using it on other people and going the direct result of what it is that you are doing. Whether you want to hear that or not, that is the case. And if you don't like me for saying that, I am totally fine with that. I accept the
I think that's so
responsibility.
good. I love how you just said that, and going the direct result of what you're trying to do. So what ends up
Mm.
happening is, and make sure I get it right, Jonathan. What ends up happening is, if somebody, what's that old saying? Um, when you point your finger at one person, you got three more pointing back at yourself, kind of
Yeah,
thing. And it's like what you're trying to put on somebody else, you're really putting that in your own universe as well,
that's right.
right?
That's
It's
right.
not what I think scripture says, it's not what goes in your mouth that defiles you, but what comes out of it.
Yes.
And so that's what defiles you. That's what you're making that your own reality in order to then give it to somebody else.
Right.
Mm.
In order to put it on somebody else. You better be
Right.
careful what you say, baby. Be
That's right.
careful the lies you tell, because they for
That's
you.
that's right.
Everything you say is for yourself.
Mm-hmm. You got it. You got it.
Yep.
As highly unpopular as it is you're either taking responsibility and you're telling the truth about things, or you are creating a narrative to control others and yourself because you are not being honest with yourself. And if you can't have that, you don't have to listen to this podcast. You don't need to be doing independent Scientology. Good luck with that. I hope it works out for you. Period.
Or not.
Or not.
Yep. And
Right.
it's a tough one to navigate as well, because from the start we're taught how to lie. We're taught how to get our way. We're taught,
Mhm.
it's so ingrained in, I don't know about all cultures. I can't say for all cultures, but it's so ingrained in us to lie. We see it all the time. Marketing lies,
Yep.
the news lies, our parents lie. I mean, you know, even Christmas, the first great lie, Santa Claus. Like, imagine, how many kids have actually literally been traumatized when they find out that Santa Claus is not real.
Doesn't exist.
Mm.
But we make it fun, and we make it like it's nothing. But this fantasy we've created in a tiny person, and then the devastation of that. I remember with my daughter, she cried. Like, how many kids cry when they find out, and
Mhm.
and actually become, it's like their first big trauma.
Mm.
And not only that, but that lie's coming from who?
Yeah, from the
Right.
source figures, their parents.
The two people they see as God.
Right. Well,
Mm.
you look at
You
what
know what I mean?
Christmas has become, is it doesn't have anything to do with being
The original thought.
the original thought.
Well,
It's come,
yeah, that too. There's another
yeah,
lie on
yeah.
top of it
It
straight away.
comes
Yeah,
down to 75% of all retail sales happen between the day after Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve. 75%.
yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
it's that's no different than a kid saying, "What? There's no Santa Claus?" and a person finding out, "I thought you loved me, but you cleaned out my bank account." It's the
Hmm.
same.
So,
It's the
Right.
same thing.
Right.
so
Right.
here's a question: how many potential future valences does the lie of Santa Claus create in someone? When their parents told them about Santa Claus, they laughed about it. So what does that teach someone about lying? You just laugh it off.
Yeah. Somebody
Mm.
says, "I couldn't tell
It's
them the
it's nothing.
truth. I couldn't tell them the truth."
Yeah,
Why not?
yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't raised with a Santa Claus. I was raised Jehovah's Witness, so
You didn't have
we ain't see none of
Christmas.
that stuff.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right. You
yeah.
ain't
So
have Christmas, you have birthdays, you have nothing.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to tell my kids
You
that there's no such thing as
mean you
Christmas.
weren't lied to?
Right. Not in that way, but other things. Anyway.
Not
But
in
yeah,
that way. Not in that way.
right, right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
I think you're so right, because with with that awareness, a child could start to form their own belief system. They could start to form
100%.
their own viewpoint of the world. Think about this. Just
What
think about it for a second.
postulates?
Or their own postures about how things come about, or how to
Yeah.
earn money, or how to get the bike that I really wanted, or how to become a better citizen or a better human being in order to have what it is that I need. Imagine the way one could become better if they weren't riddled with lies. I'm making a blanket statement, but you get what I'm saying,
yeah,
right?
false
Santa gonna
narratives
bring
with
if I write a
expectations
letter,
and
Santa's
assumptions.
gonna bring me a bike because I was good this year, and so now I get a bike. Ah, the bike shows up, and I'm thinking that this lie gave it to me. This is
That's
crazy.
right. 100%. Like how many parents complain about their children lying, yet they deny their own lie. You know what I
Hypocrites.
mean?
Yeah, well, Christmas sets up an expectation and assumption.
Hmm.
Yep. But it's not just Christmas. It's so many other things as well.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah,
You
well, I
know,
mean,
that that society
yeah,
the society just blindly follows without
yeah,
any thought, without any consideration. Um, It's insane.
right.
Religion.
But with
Yeah.
Christmas, he's
Well,
got a list of the kids that have been naughty and nice.
yeah.
Where it at?
So you better be good.
Right, so you better be good. We expect you to be good, and we'll assume that you'll be good because Santa won't bring you any
Yeah.
gifts. I mean,
Yeah. While we're
wow.
lying to you saying that, yeah. Yeah.
Right. Well, they're lying to you saying that, and there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So this lie was told in order to control you.
Which goes back to
Holy
what?
shit.
Controlling your children's behavior.
That's right.
Right,
Controlling children.
exactly.
So what are you teaching them? You're teaching these kids how to learn manipulative controlling tactics
From day
Mm,
one.
firsthand,
mm,
firsthand from
Mhm.
the people that you love the most,
Yep.
mm.
especially. So then what happens when you fall into a relationship? Oh, I'll just lie to them so they'll love me.
Right.
That's how my parents did it to me. I'll just lie to them to get certain behaviors from them. Or if you won't
Well,
be good, I will do this.
Mhm.
right. And the other thing
Go,
is, think
go,
about this.
go.
As a child, you're getting missed with hoes as well. So let's say a child has been naughty. Let's say something has happened or whatever. And if Santa has this list of who's naughty, there's like a missed with hole right
Yep,
there. Like, dang, like he gonna know about it. I ain't gonna
yep,
get that puppy or whatever. It's,
yep,
they're functioning with a missed with hole and they become bullies. That's how you get bullies, by the
yep,
way.
yep. If
Yeah.
you don't behave, you're screwed, buddy. Yep.
Yep.
Wow.
Expectations and assumptions brought about
Yep.
by control and manipulation by altering the nature of reality and you agreeing to it because you didn't look and not listen.
For yourself.
For Arthur and
Well,
Quentin. Go ahead, Arthur. What you
well,
want to say?
just quickly. So I just did a little expectations versus assumptions in my artificial intelligent friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so assumptions and the definition of assumptions, a thing that is accepted as true or as certain to happen without proof. It's something you take for granted. And then with expectations, a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in future. It's something you look forward to or anticipate. So there's similar but very different as well.
Right.
And the impact of assumptions. So the impact of a incorrect assumption can lead to misunderstandings, disappointment, conflict when reality doesn't align with what was assumed, and it could cause you to jump in towards inaccurate conclusions. And then the impact of negative expectations can motivate action and help you prepare for the future. However, unrealistic or uncommunicated expectations can lead to disappointment, frustration, and resentment when they aren't met. And what's interesting about both of these is, especially when working with other people, is how it can impact the trust on another person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what gets impacted the
That's it.
most is our trust.
Yeah, I think it's important to say, and it's been said before, is if you do everything you can possibly do within your ability, and you know that you've done the best that you can do for who you are at that moment for another person, that's truth.
Mhm.
If you didn't do it and you phoned it in or you gave excuses for why this couldn't be done and that couldn't be done and I'm not responsible for this and I'm not responsible for that, did you do everything you could possibly do? That
Mm,
is where you're lying to yourself because you are unwilling to confront what it is you're dealing with as a being. But if you can keep that line in there and you do everything that you can do and you're still being made wrong for what it is that you're doing, like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, you're trying to help another person get auditing and get up the bridge and take responsibility and confront the things that they need to confront as an auditor. And people look at you and go, they think they're better than me because they're helping me. Bruh.
That's one of the liabilities, though.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. It makes sense as a liability of being an auditor because a person in that condition, would begin to see the one auditing them as the one that has a better grasp on life or a better whatever. People think all kind of things,
Right.
but they start to think that way, and so I can see that being a liability of being an auditor, of auditing someone, that they start to resent you because they think that you think you're better than them.
Yeah, and this doesn't just come with auditing. It comes with, oh, hey, you know what? I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you a job. You lost some money. Hey, you know what? I'll employ you and I'll give you some money to get by and everything like that. And then they're like, well, he's helping me. I'll take it. But they resent you for it. And then months and months later, they come back and they say, oh, he's an asshole.
Yeah, that actually happened to me in a relationship. I was literally told in a relationship that I resent you because I started my own business. I was like, listen, let's build our own business. Let's build our business together. Let's be partners. Let's make money. Let's buy real estate. Let's do all this stuff. And when I did it, but my 2D didn't, I was resented for it. You think you better than everybody. You think you better than me.
Right.
I know tech and I know how to apply it. And I gave it to you and I asked you to come participate. I asked you to be a part of it. What did I do wrong?
Right. You
did it.
That's
did
right.
it is what you did wrong. You actually did what you said you was going to do.
That's right.
Ain't that something?
You know what I love about our bodies? One thing I love about our bodies is how much of a barometer they are when navigating these things. Like not only to ourselves, but if you self-lie, your body reacts to it. It makes you feel uncomfortable. When somebody's lying to you, your body starts to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like a barometer.
Our bodies are, that's what I'm saying. Our bodies are incredible barometers. But, if the barometer's constantly running, at 11, then it's harder to see the real subtle indicators that come on as well. But I got a question for you.
Nervous system.
Yeah. And that's why you have people that do body language readings and things like that, and they're amazingly accurate on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
early on photography will show these things.
There's a lot of advanced things that are available to look at these things outside of dynamics and Scientology, and some of them have value, some of them don't. Phrenology, I don't think so, but it's an interesting.
Well, the body is just a communication tool. I mean, this whole thing is just a communication tool, and so it's going to communicate one way or the other. Yeah, whether it could be verbally or non-verbally.
Right. So, the thetan affects the body, and the body responds, and so there you go. The puppet master controls the puppet, and the puppet master's feeling nervous. Okay, the body's going to feel nervous too. So, at the end of the day,
anxiety.
Anxiety. So these things show up. They're indications, and so the indications are what you need to look for, not listen. Look for, not listen. You have to be able to observe.
Yes.
And then
it screams at you so loudly. How can you ignore it?
Right. But I love them. They would never do that to me.
Meanwhile.
Meanwhile. Exactly.
Your whole life falling apart.
Now you're at the adverse effect, and you go, what happened? They loved me. Psh, psh. Wake up.
Right.
Wake up.
Wow. You said you were going to ask a question, Arthur.
So that's a little biblical. So when Adam and Eve ate from the forbidden fruit was of knowledge of good and evil.
The tree of knowledge of good and evil.
What
Right.
were they? What were they before they knew about good and evil?
They existed. They were.
No lies.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolute
No
truth. As
lies.
Right.
is.
That's
Yep.
isness. That is isness.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
what it is. That
Yep.
isness,
Mm-hmm.
the isness is what it is. It doesn't mean it's good, bad, or indifferent. That's just what it is at that moment. And then we go from there. It's when
Right.
we
It's
add a
just the
lie on
nature
the
of
right.
things.
We add a lie on the line, or there was a lie on the line already. It's still the isness. The isness is it's an alter is. And it doesn't change until
Yep.
somebody looks at it and inspects it and doesn't listen. Then they get the as isness and they go, oh shit, this
Mm-hmm.
is
Yep.
what this is. Right. And sometimes it takes
Yep.
a couple of times from a couple of different family members for you to go, oh
Sure.
shit, I am in a pit of vipers. What the fuck
Mm.
am I doing here?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And is that realization, is that cognition, is that aha moment? If you go back and listen to that podcast called "Can Independent Scientology Save You?" Go back and listen to that, because that's really what it is.
Yep.
What other religions call salvation, it really is that awareness of truth,
Yep.
whatever you want to call it, and that awareness of truth opens up the road. The truth will set you free kind of vibe. The awareness of truth opens up the road for you to start to live a life that's different from the life you had been living, the
Right.
journey you had been on. And the thing I love about Scientology is that it cuts through all of the hyperbole and all of the stories and all the parables and all of the and it goes straight to the heart of, this is what's happening to you as a being.
Mhm.
And you can have those gains and those revelations and those realizations. You can have them every moment, every session. You can have them.
Right.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. And this is the last analogy that I'm going to make. We've all heard the expression, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Okay. And if that tree produces tainted or poisoned apples, why are you standing under the tree? Why are you eating the apple?
Mm-hmm.
Who decided to eat the apple and stand under the tree?
I curse the tree from the roots up. The whole tree gonna die when I'm done with it.
Well, and in some cases, that is you looking, not listening, because you've realized the tree produces poisoned apples.
Poison fruit,
Yep,
right? You judge a tree by the fruit that it bears.
that is right.
Yep. No matter how much it made your stomach turn, you just kept eating it anyway.
Yep,
Mm.
yep.
Ain't that something?
And that's
Yeah.
the lie. That's the lie that you accept because you didn't look,
Yep.
you listened. So for Quentin and Arthur and myself, we hope this has been a revelatory podcast. I myself think it's probably the most important podcast we've ever done. It's just a matter of whether the listener duplicates, understands this information, and can take it, and most importantly of all, apply it to their own lives on their own personal level, their own relationship level, their own group level, their own world level, with all of the insanity that's going on this planet for the last squillions of years and in this universe. Apply it. I beseech you to apply it. Get in session, get on
Mm.
course, have discipline, get up the bridge. We have a half price bridge special. We can handle this for you. We can help you handle it, but you have to take
Mm-hmm.
that first step. Call us 816-355-4606 or email us. Contact us on our websites, ao-gp.org, College of Independent Scientology.com. Talk to our AI, Finn, in the bottom right-hand corner of the college, bottom right-hand corner of aogp.org. Get in touch with us. Let's get this sorted out so that you have different expectations than you have right now. Okay? That's all there is to it. ao-gp.org. Get in touch with us. we'll get you in session. For Quentin and Arthur and I, namaste, and we love you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Peace.